Black intelligence threatens a lot of white people. It threatens their fragile narrative of an inferior black race. There was a time in America when blacks who refused to kowtow, or were outspoken, or were unusually intelligent, would not be tolerated by the white populace. They could get whipped on the street, lynched, or, as whites would say, disappeared. Born in Mississippi in 1911 and raised in St. Louis, Lloyd Gaines was the embodiment of the talented 10th. After graduating magna cum laude and valedictorian from Lincoln University, Missouri's historically black institution, he applied in 1936 to the all-white University of Missouri School of Law. Despite being a model candidate who met every academic metric, he was rejected solely because of his race. Remember, this was 1936 in a Jim Crow state, but Missouri gave him a choice. We will pay for you to leave your home and go to a law school in the North, or you can give up on your dreams. You're not going to law school in Missouri. Throughout the Jim Crow South, whites didn't want blacks in their classrooms, and they were willing to go to extraordinary lengths to keep it that way. Enter Charles Hamilton Houston, an attorney for the NAACP. He was the architect of the organization's legal strategy to challenge the equal half of the Plessy versus Ferguson separate but equal doctrine. He saw in Gaines the perfect weapon as a test plaintiff. He, along with Thurgood Marshall, filed a mandamus action on his behalf, a legal demand for the state to do its legal duty. Against all odds, in 1938, they won. The Supreme Court ruled that Missouri couldn't export its legal obligations. If they wanted to keep things separate, they had to actually make them equal inside Missouri borders. They remanded the case. Missouri's response was a masterclass in systemic spite. Instead of admitting one man to the University of Missouri, they spent $200,000, nearly $4.5 million today, to circumvent the federal mandate to admit black law students to the University of Missouri. Their first act was to create a makeshift law school in the basement and lower levels of Young Hall at Lincoln University. Houston and Thurgood Marshall inspected the so-called law school and called it a sham. Realizing the basement school would not pass Supreme Court scrutiny, University of Missouri officials purchased a prominent black beauty college in St. Louis and renovated it into a law school. It had only a handful of professors and a library consisting of only a few books. When it opened its doors in September 1939, it and its law school student body of 30 students were met by a picket line of nearly 200 protesters. Black leaders and students condemned it as a Jim Crow school. The state was nervous. The NAACP had them in their crosshairs, and they knew their case was constitutionally weak. Houston and his legal team were determined to prove that this beauty college school was a smokescreen designed to keep Jim Crow in place. Missouri officials were well aware that the Gaines case was no ordinary lawsuit. His status as a qualified plaintiff made him a direct threat to the separate but equal doctrine. Gaines was a marked man. He moved to Chicago to hide out, living at an Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity house. His life was in danger, and even though he was living in Chicago, he was looking over his shoulder. The reach of Jim Crow had no boundaries. Historically, racist white folk never held any qualms of ridding themselves of troublesome black men, regardless of where they were. He understood that he was the only barrier standing between a defiant status quo and the dismantling of segregated education. On March 19th, 1939, Gaines told the frat house housekeeper he was going out to buy stamps. That was the last time anyone ever heard from or saw him. He stepped out into a rainy Chicago night and disappeared. In the Jim Crow South, disappeared was often a polite word white folk would use for murdered. Whether it was a Klan mob or a state-sanctioned hit, the result was the same. He would never be seen again. His disappearance effectively killed the lawsuit. The state of Missouri acted as if Lloyd Gaines never existed. On January 2nd, 1940, the Missouri Supreme Court dismissed the case because Gaines could not be found to testify. The University of Missouri Brain Trust thought they had defeated the latest challenge to their white privilege. The state of Missouri thought that by erasing Lloyd Gaines, they had erased the threat. They were wrong. They had only provided the NAACP with a dress rehearsal. 11 years later, in 1946, a brilliant black man named Heman Sweat applied to the University of Texas Law School. Texas followed the Missouri playbook to a T. They scrambled to build a Negro law school in the basement of a building housing a petroleum consulting firm, 2 blocks from the elite University of Texas's main campus, a crude imitation of the legal education available at the white Jim Crow school. Sweat saw through the sham and refused to attend. The NAACP jumped to his defense and sued. But this time, the NAACP was ready. They used the Gaines precedent. They argued that equality wasn't just about bricks and books. It was about prestige, alumni networks, and the intangibles of a legal education. Texas was so opposed to integration that it authorized $2.5 million, over $30 million today, to build the Texas State School for Negroes in Houston. Today, this school is known as Texas Southern University. All of that money, all of that infrastructure, just to keep one black man from sitting in a chair at the University of Texas. The state of Missouri might have erased the man, but it could not erase Gaines's shadow. In 1950, Charles Houston and the NAACP remained a thorn in the side of American racism. They sued and forced the Supreme Court to hear the case. In the landmark case, Sweat versus Painter, the court ruled that the basement school was a fraud. Sweat won. He walked through the front doors that had been slammed shut on Lloyd Gaines a decade earlier. Today, the Travis County Courthouse in Austin bears Heman Sweat's name in stone. It is a monument to the man who finished the fight. But Gaines received no such monument. In fact, he didn't even get a law degree. A brilliant young man who probably could have been anything in life he desired became a sacrificial lamb to black progress. Most of y'all never heard his name. Although we may never know his final outcome, he is a significant footnote in black history. Gaines was the first crack in the wall that would eventually end Jim Crow. And that crack was significant. That wall eventually came crashing down with the Supreme Court ruling in the 1954 decision Brown versus Board of Education, where segregation was declared inherently unequal. Jim Crow all across America was killed, and Gaines, arguably, fired the first shot. History remembers the victors. It's time we remember the man who was quietly sacrificed so the victory could be possible.